second week of July in the books already. How's everybody doing? It's the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970. The Answer. I am your host, Al Gattullo. Isn't that amazing? I don't know why we didn't come up with a better name for this show. I think this was one of those things that just popped out, and I said, all right, you know what? We're gonna stick with this. So there you go. Maybe it's a little self-serving. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I hope you stay tuned for this next just under an hour or so of this program where we talk all about craft beer. We're going to do something a little bit, though, different tonight. Yes, we'll have some craft beer news and stuff that we will get to. But I'm hoping in the final two segments of this program, and I'm hedging my bet here a little bit, and by the next break, you'll certainly know if this person is going to be on. Coming up in about 20 minutes, Sergio Moutela. For those in New Jersey, you know the name. He was the man behind Melovino Meadery, which closed a few years back. But Sergio is crushing it with his modern farm fresh Italian restaurant, Terzo, in Metuchen, New Jersey. And I went to the restaurant to interview Sergio, and it'll be the final two segments of the program. A couple of different things that I wanted to talk to Sergio about. One, obviously, the meadery, but also about how he took over Terzo, a longtime Italian restaurant in Metuchen, New Jersey, and has made it his own now, put his own stamp on it. He kept a lot of things the same when he started. Now he's sort of moved along and made his own little twist on the Italian dishes that people know and love so much. He had opened a small restaurant in Montclair that was doing very well, doing authentic Portuguese cuisine. But then he sold that and went back to Terzo, and he's got some new stuff coming as well. We'll touch on all those bases, but Sergio has a unique perspective on the beer business in New Jersey, how when he was the man behind Melovino Meadery, creating the mead program in New Jersey and basically establishing a lot of the rules and the laws that are going on right now. A lot of stuff to get into with Sergio. He's a great guy, and I still wish the meadery was open. I've talked plenty of times about Melovino Meadery and the magician that is Sergio, and the fact that he created meads that tasted like beer. Unbelievable. We'll get into all of it with Sergio in just a little bit. Missouri is home to more than 170 independent craft breweries, and they're inviting beer fans now to explore what they brew with a cool new beer app that was created by the Missouri Craft Brewers Guild. It's the Mo Craft Beer app. It's an all-in-one hub for exploring the state's vibrant brewing scene, offering an easy way to score deals and stay connected with local breweries. It's available for download by searching MO Craft Beer in the App Store. The new digital passport opens up a variety of perks for local beer lovers. Users can get access to pint passes, which offer a buy-one-get-one deals at participating locations across the state, alongside an interactive map designed to help navigate Missouri's diverse brewery landscape. The app also keeps enthusiasts in the loop with exclusive news and updates from the local beer community, while allowing users to earn rewards that can be redeemed for free beer. That's great. New York has something similar. I know friends that use that Think New York, Drink New York beer app, and they love it, and it gives you a lot of different things and a lot of incentives to use it. I would love to see New Jersey do something like this. I think there was talk at one point, but again, because New Jersey can't have nice things and because everything in New Jersey has to be difficult, the give away a beer or money off on a beer or to do things like that, yes, you can do some of it, but no, you can't do all of it. It's, as usual, there's always a problem. Why am I not surprised? I would love to see New Jersey get their act together and do something like that. I think it would be great. In-car breathalyzers, by the way, are being credited for preventing millions of drunk driving attempts over the last 20 years. The breathalyzers have ignition interlocks that keep drivers with too much alcohol on their breath from starting their vehicles. This is a sensible thing, especially if you've been caught drunk driving. Mothers Against Drunk Driving released a new report a few weeks back claiming that breathalyzers have prevented about 5.7 million drunk driving attempts. The report also grades each state's ignition interlock law and found that many U.S. states still have legal loopholes that allow DUI offenders to avoid installing breathalyzers. 11 states, along with the District of Columbia, received an A grade. Now, that's interesting. You would think that this would be a blanket thing where you put breathalyzers in cars if you've been caught with a DUI. I think this should be common sense, folks. This is another one of those things, again, where it's common sense. Not, I'm going to do this or whatever. Find a legal loophole. Guys, you don't drink and drive. If you've had too much to drink, if you think you're tipsy, you probably are. Don't get behind the wheel. There's ride-sharing services. There are friends. Leave your car. Go back the next day and get it. Yes, it's an expense. Yes, it's a pain in the rear end. But would you rather pay for the $100 Uber ride home or pay $10,000, possibly take somebody's life or lives, and end up in jail? Come on. It's pretty easy to figure out, right? Pretty easy. All right, a couple of other things before we take a break here. Breweriesinpa.com, which talks all about breweries in Pennsylvania, announced about a week or so ago that one of Philadelphia's most recognizable landmarks is getting a craft beer upgrade. Broad Street Brewing has been selected to transform the long-vacant Flying Saucer building at Love Park into a new beer destination with an outdoor beer garden that opened over the 4th of July weekend ahead of a permanent year-round concept expected next spring. So the project is a partnership between Broad Street Brewing, Rival Brothers Coffee, and High Street Hospitality Group, bringing local beer, coffee, and food together in the heart of Center City. For Pennsylvania craft beer fans, another exciting sign that local breweries continue to earn high-profile opportunities in some of the state's most visited destinations. Instead of a national chain, visitors will soon be able to enjoy a locally brewed pint while taking in one of Philadelphia's most iconic public spaces. If you've never been to the Love Sculpture and that area of Center City, you should go. It's awesome, and that's great that they're going to bring a local craft brewery in to serve beer, which is as it should be. It shouldn't be, and that's again, when you do that, you're devaluing the city that you live in. Like to have Budweiser in St. Louis, yes, makes sense. They're from there, even though they're an international company. And I'm sure there are great breweries in St. Louis, Missouri. But yeah, okay, Budweiser, I get that. But any place else, Colorado, Coors, okay, I get it. But other than that, nah, I don't think so. Here's an interesting story San Diego Union Tribune put out. And Brandon Hernandez, who runs the San Diego beer scene website, who does an amazing job with San Diego breweries. Brandon, if you are listening, and I don't know if you are, but I would love to meet up with you when I'm out in San Diego in November because I think you do a tremendous job. I've tried to get him on the program before. He's never really responded. And I think Brandon does a great job of spotlighting so many great places in San Diego. And now what he wrote about last week in the San Diego Union Tribune is that not only, and Athletic Brewing is based out there, but not only is Athletic Brewing doing this, but other breweries in San Diego are now creating non-alcoholic beers. And as he states in his article, the non-alcoholic beer segment grew by over 22% just a year ago in 2025, surpassing $1 billion in U.S. sales and accounting for roughly 87% of all non-alcoholic beverage sales in the country. That's according to the Beer Institute. Once unthinkable, as he writes, non-alcoholic beer accounted for 2% of total American beer sales last year. That's huge. The majority of the purchasers fall in the Gen Z category, but it spans all over, right? Because let's face it, non-alcoholic beer has seen a surge in the last 4 or 5 years. People are drinking it more. People are doing more with it. It has become a hip thing. Athletic Brewing just spent millions on an ad campaign to promote non-alcoholic beer. AleSmith started in 2020, almost 6 years ago. They started experimenting. They released a non-alcoholic IPA in 2022. They followed up in 2024 with a de-alcoholized coffee-infused beer called Non-Alcohol Speedway, loosely based on their Speedway Stout. So all of these places are doing it. Carl Strauss Brewing, they took a swipe at non-alcoholic beer, but then decided not to pursue it. I guess they felt like it just wasn't working for them. But a couple of different places here. Let's see. I'm trying to. Creative Creature Brewing is doing some non-alcoholic beer. I thought I saw Modern Times here. Maybe not. But what we're seeing, and the quote that he gets from, let's see, this is Zane Curtis. He's the CEO and founder of Monday Morning Lab. He said, what we're seeing, this is the quote from him from the article, what we're seeing is a shift towards modernization. What we're seeing is a shift toward moderation rather than abstaining from alcohol entirely. Customers are using non-alcoholic beers as a spacer between alcoholic beers or as the final beer of the night when they want one more without the effects of alcohol. That's exactly the way it seems to be going. And I applaud this. I think this is a great thing. And I find myself now, when I drink, reaching for a non-alcoholic beer in between beers, or maybe as one at the end of the night when I want to have another beer, but I don't necessarily want the alcohol before I go to bed. And I think this is something that we're going to see more and more of as the months and years go on. And I think it's a good thing, right? Star Trek created synthahol or whatever. Non-alcoholic beer could be the synthahol of our time. All right, when we come back after a short break, our weekly segment with Gary Monterosso, but also beer places to visit in the spring and summer, an article I ran across in themanual.com, but I have a take on it and a little criticism of the writer who wrote the article. Sorry, I got to call it as I see it. It's the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. Welcome back to the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. Hope you're enjoying the weekend, or actually the weekend is winding down, or whenever you're listening to this program. We thank you for that. Now, listen, coming up in just a bit, Sergio Moutela. For those in New Jersey, you know the name. He was the man behind Melovino Meadery, which closed a few years back. Well, Sergio is crushing it now with his modern farm-fresh Italian restaurant, Terzo in Metuchen, New Jersey. We're going to talk about that, talk about a little bit about Melovino. We were actually drinking a mead from Melovino that held up very well. And a bunch of other things as well. That's going to come your way in just a few short minutes. But right now, let's get into our weekly segment with our good friend Gary Monterosso from the Beverage Chronicles.
I'm Gary Monterosso for the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast. Across the United States, breweries are rediscovering the sweet spot of 4 to 5% ABV beers as a way to stand apart in an increasingly crowded landscape of light lagers and non-alcoholic offerings. These beers strike a balance between flavor and drinkability, delivering craft character without the heaviness of high ABV styles. For brewers, it's a strategic pivot, meeting consumer demand for moderation while preserving identity and creativity. For drinkers, it's a return to sessionable beers that don't sacrifice taste. In reclaiming this middle ground, breweries are redefining what everyday beer can be in today's evolving market.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. And yes, we are seeing a lot more of that, 4 and 5% beers. And I do agree with Gary. Again, I think they're dialing them in just perfectly. All right, we've got a bunch of news to get to, and I had teased something before the break about places to go when you're vacationing for beer. I want to get to that in a moment. But first, alcohol and smoking now being linked to an increased risk of irregular heartbeats as well as breast cancer. It's been known for decades that drinking alcohol and lighting up boosts a woman's breast cancer risk, but now the American Heart Association is issuing an alert warning women that those lifestyle habits also increase the threat of developing irregular heartbeats. A major study involving data from 200 countries shows that women 55 and up are most in danger. It also found that the highest risk is in Western nations, including the United States. So again, cut out the smoking, cut down on the drinking. You'll be all right. 15 years. It's a lot of beers, it's a lot of stories, and a whole lot of people who made Carton Brewing what it is today. This from the brewery itself. And next month in August, they're celebrating their 15th anniversary. They say they can't wait to raise a glass with the community that has been with us every step of the way. We've got some fun things in the works, and trust us, you won't want to miss them. I know that Augie does a great job. Keep an eye on our page over the next few weeks, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. Party details, special releases, and everything you need to know. Coming soon. Cheers to the memories and cheers to what's next. So I think the anniversary party is going to be somewhere in the middle of August, hoping to get over there when that happens. The Rose Court Brewery, we've talked about these guys for a while. They are going to be finally opening in Madison, New Jersey, Saturday, July 18th. They're opening the doors at noon. They're pouring you beers until 9 p.m. that day. Sunday, they'll be open noon through 7. And then they're off on that following Monday and then starting their normal business hours on Tuesday, July 21st. They'll be announcing their opening beer lineup in the days leading up to the grand opening. We've got some tasty ones that we think you'll enjoy. This is from the brewery. And they said we're expecting a bit of traffic coming through, so please be patient with us. Madison has fantastic parking options, but please obey all signage and be respectful of our neighbors. Respectful, that is. While you're in town, make sure to visit the other amazing restaurants, bakeries, coffee shops, and do some shopping while you're here. We're so grateful to be a part of such an amazing community, and we absolutely can't wait to share our beers with you. They are located at 3 Central Avenue in Madison, New Jersey. I'm excited. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there on their opening day because I'm going to see Toto that night at PNC, but I will certainly be there in the coming weeks, and I hope to have the folks from Rose Court Brewery on the program very, very soon. Now, Deschutes Brewery has ended their partnership with Costco. They were making 2 beers under the Kirkland name, Kirkland Signature Helles Lager and Kirkland Signature Vintage Ale. That'll be ending by the end of this year. They began the co-branded beers with the club just a couple of years ago, back in 2024. They replaced the retailer's poorly rated lager brand with a German-style lager priced around $13.99 a 12-pack. Helles won silver and bronze medals in the Munich-style Helles category of the 2025 and 2026 World Beer Cup competitions. And apparently this had always been the plan with Deschutes, to do it for a couple of years and then sort of wind down. So this is not surprising to me that this is ending, and it looks like Costco is going to have to find a different brewery in order to make these types of beer. Finally, I mentioned this, an article from the Manual by a gentleman by the name of Christopher Osborne, and he wrote this article this year, and he talked about different places to go on vacation when you're visiting in the spring and summer. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing. You should read it. I'll post a link to it. He mentions Denver. He mentions Portland, Maine. But he mentions Asheville, North Carolina, Chicago, Illinois, which I do want to get to Chicago at some point. But anyway, he mentions San Diego. And he says here that you should, there's a bunch of different places you should visit. Visit the world-famous San Diego Zoo, visit a museum in Balboa Park, watch the seals at La Jolla Cove. But he said, here's a few breweries that you must visit. Now listen to this. They include AleSmith, Ballast Point, Epig, Modern Times, Pure Project, and, of course, Pizza Port. So I don't want to get too far into this and get too far down the rabbit hole, but Ballast Point doesn't really have a presence in San Diego anymore. I mean, they do, but they're really not making the beer that they used to make. And Modern Times has gone through a bunch of changes. I certainly would have picked some other places, and so is Epig, too. Epig is going through some changes as well. I think I would have picked other places. AleSmith, Pure Project, and Pizza Port, certainly great choices. I would have added a couple of others in there. I certainly would have added Kilowatt. I would have. I don't want to be too critical of it, but I feel like the author hasn't been there in a while and probably didn't do his due diligence. And that's just me. And Chris, if you're listening, would love to get some feedback from you and would love to talk to you on the program. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that. I have my difference. Maybe it's my bias because of my love for San Diego, but whatever. Anyway, coming up next, for the final 2 segments of the show, Sergio Moutela, the owner behind the Modern Farm Fresh Italian restaurant Terzo in Metuchen, New Jersey, is going to join me on the program. This is the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Welcome back to the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. We are coming to you. It's a different little take today on the Beer Cast, because normally I interview people all about beer, and sometimes we dabble into food, we dabble into spirits. Well, my next guest is a gentleman that I have called a friend for a number of years, but when I first met him, it was not here at his restaurant, it was at his meadery. And Melovino Meadery was a gem of a place, if you could find it. That was one of those secret things where the first time that I went there, we didn't know where it was, and then Chris Ayers, who is now one of the brew guys over at Oak Flower, just saw us and said, "Are you looking for the meadery? Come with me." And it was like, ooh, now we're going on an adventure. I love it. More on that in a moment. For the last several years, he has been working his magic at Terzo in the town of Metuchen, New Jersey, with an Italian restaurant that is not your typical place. And trust me when I tell you, the food here is amazing. For more info and to make a reservation, which is highly recommended, go to Terzo, TERZONJ.com. That's the website. Hit it up, or you can head to Resi as well to make a reservation. Let me welcome to the Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer for the first time, Sergio Moutela. Sergio, thanks for having me here. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
All right, so I'm going to touch on Melovino in a moment. We're actually sipping on a mead that you made shortly before the meadery closes called the Percolator. It is tasty. We'll get into that in a minute. But how long have you been here at Terzo, which, if memory serves me, was a long-standing restaurant in this town before you took it over, correct?
Yeah, no, it was originally it was called Torino 2. Actually, it was the original owner from back in the day, second location. I was here in Metuchen for about 20 years or so. It was a staple within the community, and took it over around 2022, I believe. Was about that time frame. Horrible with the years, probably from all the drinking days in the mead at the meadery. But took over Torino 2. Very long story short, it kind of always just felt like for the first 3 years, it felt like I was basically running somebody else's restaurant. You know, I wanted to put my own mark on things. Longtime regulars were fighting me. Even on the music selection, we've had people literally get up from their tables and come to the back to complain about music selection because we weren't playing Sinatra and Dean Martin. And, you know, so it got to a point where eventually I opened up a spot up in Montclair and did my own thing. And we had our own playlist and did our own food. And honestly, we killed it. We were named Restaurant of the Year by all the media outlets and all of that. And I quickly realized, why don't we just do this in Metuchen, right? I feel like I'm walking into somebody else's restaurant every day. And, we decided to rebrand it, rethink it. We remodeled the place. And we called it Terzo, being that going from Torino 2 to Terzo. Terzo in Italian means the third. Right. So we wanted to still keep like a nod to like the history of the restaurant here. But it's its third evolution, basically.
And so you take over here after the experience in Montclair, which I never got a chance to get up there, and I know the reasons why you ended up selling that place. You were being pulled in two different directions. The restaurant in Montclair was smaller. You were not turning over tables fast enough, so it became a numbers game and a money game where you just were kind of like, look, I need to sort of consolidate where I'm at. This is closer to home, closer to family, and maybe I can make a change here for the good, which is fantastic. In the midst of all of this, you decide to close Melovino, which a lot of people were disappointed, myself included. But you found the pull of creating an experience for people at this restaurant too strong to be doing two things at once. And obviously, as I mentioned, there were family obligations, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially the whole Montclair situation was more of a Parkway North problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were days that it took me an hour and 50 minutes to get to the restaurant, from either my current restaurant or from home, which I live about 15 minutes away from here. It just got to a point where it was just like a little bit too much to handle, a little too far away. I was missing baseball games, wife's overwhelmed with the kids because I'm not around as much. And it just kind of got to a point where I just don't see this being sustainable. It's not like, if that place was called Tosca, if it was around the corner from here or from the house, I would still be open. Right. It was just a matter of just too much. And if anything happened, which something always happens in the restaurant industry, by the time I'd get there, it would be a little too late anyway to even make a difference. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, you know what, it's just not working, both on the business side, both on the family side. And like you said, I consolidated my attention over here. Yeah. On the Melovino side, that was like super bittersweet for us. It was more of a timing issue. Our lease was actually, we had a 10-year lease. Our lease was expiring at the end of 2021. And it was just kind of do we renew for another 5 years? Because that was going to be the minimum lease renewal. And the way I saw the trajectory going of everything after COVID and all that, I'm like, I don't see things getting any better anytime soon. Right. And I ended up being right in retrospect. It got way worse. But yeah, it was basically that. It's like, can I morally justify risking, my family's livelihood because I still want to keep doing this? Is it a good business decision? And the fact of the matter is, it wouldn't have been if I had. Right. the light at the end of the tunnel, at least for the Melovino and Melovino space, was we actually ended up like selling all the equipment and subleasing the space out to somebody who's still making mead there at that location, which is great. That's like really cool to know. My brother Mitchell, who works for me here, he's part owner of the restaurant. He also worked for me at Melovino. He still goes there and helps him with production and all that, but it was just happenstance that his girlfriend happened to live in the apartment buildings immediately behind Melovino.
Oh, wow.
And one day he was there and saw the sign on the door and was like, I wonder what that is, and just walked in. And
very cool.
Told me he used to get all his mead, because him and his father used to sell mead wholesale for years and years. And he was just like, yeah, no, I've been having my mead made. We've been considering making our own. And I told him, well, you want to buy a meadery? It's plug and play.
Hey.
You move in, you can start making mead as soon as you get licensed and all that. And, it was just like perfect timing.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I loved what you did with the mead. And the Guinness-inspired mead, I mean, unbelievable. The IPA that was not beer, and yet you would swear it was when you're looking at it and you're tasting it, and it's honey. You push the envelope doing so many different things with honey. Yeah. And I think they all hit the mark. When you're cooking, does that same sort of magic hit you, say, when you're creating a new pasta?
100%. Yeah, if anything, it's even it satisfies my very short attention span and impatience, I should say. Because with mead, like let's say for example, beer, right? Beer, you want to put out a beer, it could be ready in 3 to 4 weeks, right? If you really push it and if everything works out. Mead was more like 3 to 4 months, right? At least on like the higher alcohol strength meads. On the food side, I mean, geez, I could whip up something right now and test it out. And if it's not good, I can try it again immediately and keep refining. Whereas you want to refine a mead, well, you got to wait 3 months to see how it came out first, and then try it again, and then wait another 3 months. So, it's food has always been like a huge, huge part of my life. Just always addicted to the culinary scene since like a very, very young age. Okay. I'm the type, I use this example all the time just to prove a point. Even in my early 20s, like I would, no matter how late I got home on a Saturday night, I would wake up early Sunday morning just for Food Network programming. It was just one of those things I've always been into. Even if you ever had the pleasure of going to one of our tours and tastings that we had at Melovino, I always talked about food and food pairings with each individual mead, and I was known for always recommending almost every single meat I made to have with duck, which is my favorite protein. We always try to have on the menu here even. So, yeah, food was always just like a big thing, and it was just like a natural progression. And if anything, COVID is actually kind of what was like the key turning point for me for even finally considering actually doing food for a living in a restaurant setting. When COVID happened, even after we were allowed to reopen, everybody was still afraid to come out. Sales were obviously low. Our bar staff wasn't making any money. I felt bad, so we doubled their pay, and I said, I'll find some supplemental income for myself. And what happened was I ended up getting a sales gig working for Toast, which is a big restaurant point-of-sale system. So I, remote sales job. This is perfect, but it made me go in and out of dozens of restaurants a week for like the next year and a half. And I quickly realized, like, a lot of these guys, some of them have no idea what they're doing. Some of them are just figuring it out as they go along. And some of them are doing amazing. But it kind of opened my eyes to, like, I think I could actually do this. I've dreamed of it, but was always too scared because it was too foreign for me.
Sure.
But that sales gig, if it wasn't for COVID, I probably wouldn't have gotten that. I would have had no reason to get that sales gig. But that sales gig with Toast was like the turning point for me for thinking to myself, I can definitely do this. Like, if this guy can do it, and there's some guys out there that are like, wow, okay.
Right.
I can definitely do it. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot of, like, things that great restaurateurs are doing. Some things not to do, I've also learned. And acting in that sales role, it was also almost like a consultant role for more modern solutions, more efficiencies, and all that. And it was just kind of like a crash course leading into just opening up my own restaurant, basically.
All right. So one more question before we take a break here. We're talking with Sergio Moutela, the owner of Terzo, located at 12 New Street in Metuchen, New Jersey. They're open every day but Tuesday. TerzoNJ.com is the website. You can hit them up on Resi as well to make a reservation. We're here on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. On your website, it states that Terzo is the type of place that has no pretentiousness or none of this or that. What do you mean by that?
It's not your stereotypical New Jersey red sauce joint, essentially. Like everything on the menu, besides our chicken parm and eggplant parm, is non-traditional. Kind of similar to what we were doing up in Montclair with a modern Iberian menu. We kind of just take Italian ingredients and Italian flavors and just use them in completely new ways. Like, what if this existed in an alternate universe? How would have Italians use these ingredients completely differently, right? Or just completely taken out of the box and taking inspiration for something not even having to do with food, or just like back in the mead days. Mm-hmm. Some recipes of mine were inspired by lyrics of a song, or a quote from White Man Can't Jump inspired a recipe that I did. Okay. So that's kind of like the direction that we take. So it's not a play. I'm trying to set expectations. Okay. We don't play Sinatra. We don't play Dean Martin. None of the Rat Pack. We play 70s and 80s rock and alternative, and that's our playlist. Although some people don't appreciate it, that's our thing. That's the vibe we're trying to create, and it attracts the crowd that likes it. So it's more one of those things. It's more of setting a level of expectation. There's no Scarpiello or Marsala, but there might be a riff on it that you've never even thought of how we execute it. So
it's getting you to try new experiences. Yeah. That's essentially what it is. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Sergio Moutela, the owner of Terzo. It's located at 12 New Street in Metuchen, New Jersey. They're open every day but Tuesday. TerzoNJ.com is the website for a reservation. When we come back, Sergio made a post on Facebook about brisket. And I want to talk to him about that because I'm a big connoisseur of brisket, but also pasta and so many other things as well. That's next on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast, coming to you from Terzo in Metuchen, New Jersey on AM 970, The Answer. Welcome back to the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970, The Answer. We're coming to you from Terzo, 12 New Street in Metuchen, New Jersey. It's not your everyday Italian. You need to come here. They're open every day but Tuesday. For more info and to make a reservation, highly recommended, Terzo, TERZONJ.com. Sergio Moutela, the owner, chef, rejoins me on the show. You posted on Facebook recently about smoking brisket. You said, and I quote, "Smoking brisket is like a sport. Endless practicing in search of perfection." And when I say sport, I mean golf. Brisket is the golf of barbecue. I think I know what you mean by that. A little bit, but somebody else say it. Right, but since I don't play golf, tell me what you meant by that statement.
Neither do I. For just for the fact, matter of fact. Yeah, it's just one of those things that you always hear about. Golf is a never-ending. It's never-ending practice, right? It's a pursuit of perfection that you're just never going to reach. Some come close, but most don't, right? But that's the part of the beauty of the sport, I guess, that I could appreciate, even though I'm not a player. I tried once, but lost many balls. Wasn't a great time. But yeah, no. As far as like brisket goes, specifically, in the barbecue world, it's one of those things where so many different ways to smoke a brisket: low and slow, hot and fast, and all these techniques of whether you use butcher paper or foil, and all these different techniques that people use to try to hit perfection and try to figure out the magic formula for getting a great brisket every single time.
Like, what's the optimal temperature? 212 degrees, 218, 215, right.
Yeah, so it's always just fascinated me because it's one of those things where, I do that myself. I constantly try to perfect a brisket and try to get something nailed down where every single time it's perfection. Mm-hmm. And you usually come close. Well, at least I do. I normally usually come very close, but there's always something that I feel like I can change and improve, which it's just another outlet, another creative outlet, and something just keeping my mind busy, essentially. It's what it is.
Fair enough. Now, brisket is not on the menu here. No. Is brisket meant for something else, someplace else?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I will start by saying, we have had dishes on the Terzo menu, Italian-influenced dishes inspired by barbecue. We've had baby back rib stuffed agnolotti that we then used the bones from the smoked ribs to make a stock that goes into the sauce, which perfumes the whole entire dining room when it gets walked out to a table. It's fabulous. We've done smoked lamb ragouts, and actually right now we do a play on an amatriciana, where instead of guanciale, we replace it with brisket rub smoked beef cheeks, right? So way out of the box, but inspired by a classic, Roman pasta, amatriciana.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I took my son to a baseball tournament back in, I believe it was in February, down in Houston, and we had barbecue down there in Texas for the first time, both of us technically, and it just kind of came up where we wanted to try to take over the space next door to Terzo, but for more storage and whatnot, and we said, well, if we're gonna tack on no new rent, we need to do something to generate revenue.
Sure.
My brother brought up the crazy idea of why don't we just do barbecue? Both him and I have barbecued, smoked meats for years, and we have a passion for it. So we've been trying to tackle that project, if not next door, somewhere else. But that's a possibility down the line, actually. Yeah.
Right. The funny thing is, the first time I had beef cheeks, Chef David Burke brought them in for us in the studio one day on the morning show that I work on, and I'm like, beef cheeks, and boy, every time I tell somebody beef cheeks, they go, ew, and I go, nope. Not until you try them. They're amazingly tender. It's a beautiful meat and very little used, which I think is a great idea. Now, there was a question I wanted to mention before we took a break here. You have a room dedicated to making pasta, and you offer a pasta tasting menu Monday through Thursday. I don't think, at least in New Jersey, I don't think there's another Italian place that does this. What inspired you to start that?
The funny thing was, it was just going through, following through on the theme of 3. My third year in the restaurant industry, I was basically launching essentially my third restaurant, right? I took over Torino, then I opened Tosca. Now with this rebrand, the remodel, this is kind of almost like my third restaurant. And it was just so happened to have been on the third year of me being in the restaurant scene. I figured we named the restaurant Terzo. Let's offer a 3-course pasta tasting menu. I've seen it done in other places, one in New York that kind of caught my eye. I don't know of any other places in New Jersey. Might be. I'm not claiming we're the only ones by any means, but I just thought it kind of fit because our menu here isn't stagnant. It changes very, very often, right? So as new things come into season, new inspiration hits me. It's a small menu, but everything's like from scratch, made in-house. Even our vegetable scraps get saved to make our own vegetable stock. Fish heads and bones get made into a stock. You name it. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, there's always new pastas coming out, and I was afraid that somebody might want to come in and try a specific pasta, but by the time they do, it's gone, right? So I figured, why not give people the opportunity to try at least 3 pastas in a tasting, portion size at least, so they experience like half of the pastas that we have on the menu on that given day. Next time they come in, they got one of their favorites that might still be on there, try 2 new different ones. So it was just one of those things where I felt this would add tremendously to the customer experience. I know I would love it because I'm the type when I go to a restaurant, I want to try everything.
Sure.
And if I love everything, I'm already thinking about what I want to try the next time I go there, So I thought it was just like a really cool add on to the menu, know.
So about 6 months a year ago, you decided to go into an Italian-inspired brunch menu on the weekends. What was the thinking behind that, and how long did it take you to really nail it for the customer experience?
Yeah, the brunch was interesting because while we were still under the Torino name, I tried launching a lunch menu. And, of course, I tried doing my own stuff, I had duck egg raviolo as a starter and whatever. All these different things, a really awesome menu I felt like I put together. The type of menu that I would want to keep coming back to this place over and over so I could eat my way through this whole lunch menu. Right. And it just fell flat. Like, nobody wanted to order it. Anybody who came in said, can I just order off the dinner menu? And it was very kind of like disappointing. I got down on myself, and I'm like, nobody really wants this stuff. Maybe I should just stick with like the basic stuff. And it was a little like it put me down for honestly like 3 or 4 months. It just had me not depressed, but like really disappointed in like, damn, I can't do the stuff that I really want to do here. So when we rebranded, I said, you know what? Instead of lunch, let's do brunch. I'm like, nobody says, hey, let's go out for lunch. Everybody says, let's do brunch. Right. And I said, maybe this might work a little bit better. We have a new brand. We have a new dinner menu. So it kind of like meshes a little bit better, like that type of a style, that type of a direction with more modern interpretations of Italian cuisine. I'm like, maybe it could work now. So we did that, and it went gangbusters. Like, our brunch business is like through the roof, and everybody's loving everything, leaving us great reviews, and they really appreciate like the creativeness behind everything, how unique everything is, right? So it's fun. It's just like mead making or when I used to brew beer at home, it's or cook. It's I've always been the type, I get the most enjoyment and happiness in life from just like making things that people love. The problem is when you try to do it for a living is finding the people that appreciate those things, right? And
getting them to come back time and time again and spread the word.
Yeah, everything has its own market, right? So it's like we just didn't have like the right market fit. We didn't have the right customer base. And I think once we rebranded and honestly, it's us now. You walk into this restaurant, we walk into this restaurant, we kind of know like this is our restaurant. This is us. It's a representation of us from the music to the menu. Right. And I'm just really happy we kind of found that clientele that like really appreciates that, right? Yeah. So it's cool. It feels great.
We're talking with Sergio Moutela, the owner of Terzo. They're located at 12 New Street in Metuchen, New Jersey. They're open every day but Tuesday. TerzoNJ.com. That's the website. You can make a reservation right there. We're here on the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Now, one of the desserts I actually had before you rebranded to Terzo was the olive oil cake, which I highly recommend. Mm-hmm. But it has special meaning to you. And you mentioned it earlier about getting up early to watch the Food Network shows. Yeah. You were a big fan of Anne Burrell. Yeah. What was it about her way of cooking that gave you joy?
She just, the name of her show was like, Secrets of a Restaurant Chef, right? It was just kind of like, it almost felt like you got like an inside look. Like these are all the secrets. These are the things we do in a real restaurant for somebody who's really into the culinary scene and just trying to do stuff at home. It's like, this is like, oh wow, now I could cook like a restaurateur or a restaurant chef, right? So yeah, she really, really like affected the way I looked at food and the level of cooking that I was doing. And I learned making an olive oil cake from her, or first time I even heard of an olive oil cake actually. It was just something that stuck with me, and amongst other things that she cooked that I learned for the first time, I got exposed to for the first time. And obviously, her passing was like extremely sad to lots. But yeah, it's just something that has always stuck with me. I've always made it at home for many, many years. Now we still do have an olive oil cake on the menu. It's just taken to a whole different level. Right. It's a little toasted sesame seed olive oil cake with yuzu curd and a mascarpone whip and pink peppercorns. It's just something it's like close to my heart, sort of a thing. And something that you can do so many different riffs off of. So it also quenches my thirst for like my creative outlet too. Yeah. So that's.
Listen, it's inspiring when you see that, and that is sort of the trigger for you to kind of, you want to bring joy to people's lives, and you do that through the mead, through food, all those different things. Were you trained as a chef at any point in your life, Sergio? Did you always gravitate to creating food and creating meat and home brewing and all that stuff? At any point in your life, were you trained to do those things? Or was it just something that you picked it up naturally?
Yeah, no, I just picked it up naturally, just out of sheer determination, I guess, for trying to make something. I remember the first time I made mead, it was terrible. I dumped 5 gallons down the drain. And then I said, there's got to be a better way to make, there's no way that mead tastes this bad. Right. And it was the first time I ever had mead, period. So it's just always been in my nature to try new things and experiment. And, I don't know, most guys always find a hobby. I just happen to have found like 20 of them.
But you love it. But that's the thing. There's a love, but there's a love behind all of it. Whether it's the mead, the food, whatever, there's a love and a passion, and it shines. And I see it in your eyes. I see the light there where you're just like, wow, this person likes the food that I've made for them, and that brings me joy. And that's awesome. I think that's the ultimate compliment of anything that you're creating.
Yeah, just like I used to say at Melovino, I'm like, if I wouldn't pay money, I don't charge anybody money for it. Like, if I wouldn't drink an entire bottle of anything I put in a bottle, I wouldn't ask anybody to pay money for it. The same way with the cooking. There's nothing on the menu that I wouldn't have 20 times over, 7 days a week. It's just one of those things. It's my name on it, so I've got to stand behind it. Yeah. So.
All right. And finally, we are sipping here. We got about 60 seconds. We're sipping the Percolator, which was a mead that you made at Melovino before it closed. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about this mead. It's delicious. I know that you said that there was hazelnut in it, and it sort of faded over the years, but it's still there. It's still present. This is more of a dessert mead, correct?
Yeah. We started like a dessert line of meads right before we were kind of like leading up to the end. But yeah, they were all inspired by like old school club hits. This one was called the Percolator. We had the Witch Doctor, whatever. But, this one, the Percolator, was basically a play off of what if we do this off-the-wall inspired by like a hazelnut coffee. So we used coffee blossom honey, from Africa, and then we aged it on roasted hazelnuts. So that was, very simplistic idea, but nothing like a hazelnut coffee.
Right.
But, the inspiration there, the tongue-in-cheek element is there, basically.
And who knows? Hazelnut. They want to make hazelnut the official nut of New Jersey. So you never know that the percolator could be the official hazelnut mead of New Jersey. My guest has been Sergio Moutela, the owner of Terzo. They're located at 12 New Street in Metuchen, New Jersey. They're open every day but Tuesday. Make a reservation. Get down here. You definitely want to check it out. Terzo, TERZONJ.com. That's the website. Sergio, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Thanks for having me here. Thank you for the mead. I very much appreciate it. And my thanks to everybody involved in the show, as well as my guest, Sergio Moutela, and his restaurant, Terzo. And, of course, last but not least, the great Buddy Watson. Back live on the Joe Piscopo Show Monday at 6 a.m. This has been the Al Gattullo Craft Beer Cast on AM 970 The Answer. Cheers, everybody.